Welcome to I Do This for a Living, a show that asks how we can spend as much time and energy on the things that matter as we do on the things that pay. Sometimes the things that matter pay, and we'll talk about that too. I'm Serenity Bohan. I am your host because I wanted work I love, and that's what this podcast has given me. Today's guest is Nathan Bransford. I have been following him online for almost 20 years. He is a champion for writers. He talks about the craft of writing, the publishing industry, how to navigate it. I mean, everything A to Z that you need to know if you have any interest in being a writer. Nathan Bransford has it. I send people to his blog all the time. And now I'm so excited for people in my world to get to know him. The conversation was everything I want for this show. He has so much great advice about our values, what matters to us, our work, our life, and how to make it all as cohesive as possible. I think you're going to love it. Nathan, welcome to my show. Thank you so much for being on my show. I am really happy to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So excited. I really am looking forward to people meeting you. I have sort of known you for online, at least, for almost 20 years.
Yeah, almost 20 years. It's crazy.
And, the people close to me, they have no idea who you are. So I'm really looking forward to this, introducing one of my favorite online people to people in my life and people who are listening. So what I want you to start with by way of introduction is tell the people, what is your industry and what do you do in it?
So I'm in the publishing industry, and specifically the book publishing industry. I'm an author myself. I've published 3 novels with Penguin, which formed the Jacob Wonderbar trilogy for 8 to 12-year-olds. I also self-published How to Write a Novel and How to Publish a Book, which are behind me for those watching on video. But my primary business is oriented toward helping authors navigate the publishing process, whether that's through consulting and coaching on the process or editing manuscripts. And so I help authors improve their writing craft, get their manuscripts ready for submission to agents or to self-publish. Answer a lot of questions that people have along the way, because it's a very kind of confusing industry that has a lot of strange customs unless you've been in the industry, as I was, which we'll get to at some point. I used to be a literary agent. It can be very opaque. And so I try and help authors put their best foot forward and hopefully ultimately achieve their dreams as writers.
And you do it very well. That
Thank
is
you.
what, drew me to your writing, and I have stuck with it, and it is so helpful. And I get people now and then in my life, hey, I have this book, or I want to do some writing, and I'll be like, go to nathanbransford.com. I mean, that's it. I just point. I have nothing to say to them except go read Nathan. It is A to Z, as my Canadian counterparts say, about writing and publishing. It's brilliant. So you mentioned literary agency. You were a literary agent
Yeah.
when I first learned of you. But I don't know what came before that for you in career-wise.
Nothing. University. It was my first job out of college, actually.
Wow.
And so, so I majored in English. And so, people were pretty much like, are you going to be a teacher? Are you going to go into publishing? I ended up going into publishing, and, I got very, very lucky because, this was, to date myself, this was in the aftermath of the .com collapse, and the economy was really bad, and it was really hard to find a job at the time. And I didn't want to move to New York because I didn't really have a lot of money, and New York's very expensive. And so I ended up moving to San Francisco, which wasn't very expensive at the time, which is kind of shocking to even think about. And I pretty much lucked into one of the only good publishing jobs that were available in San Francisco, certainly at the time, as the assistant to the president of Curtis Brown Limited, which is a very reputable, very strong literary agency. So I sort of kind of like managed to find my way to a dream job, and worked my way up for a couple of years until I was allowed to take on clients. And I ended up working there for 8 years.
Oh my God. Your first job out of college. I have so
Yeah.
many thoughts on that. That's amazing. Did you know what a literary agent was
I
when you graduated
did.
college?
Yeah, I did. I took, I took a class with a really incredible writer, Vikram Seth, who wrote A Suitable Boy and The Golden Gate. He's a really amazing writer, and I really enjoyed the editing part of creative writing classes where I would sort of give people feedback and help them edit their work. And so I talked to Vikram, and I was like, I think I want to be an editor, and he was like, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to do that? He was like, go, no, because you go into your basement, your parents' basement, and lock yourself in there until you've written a novel. You need to focus on writing. And I was like, no, I think I want to do this. And so I was actually kind of really contemplating working in the publishing industry in one way or another. And yeah, I ended up with a great job and a great mentor, and so that's how I came about. But I did kind of I had done some research and had conversations with writers about the industry before I jumped in.
Yeah, definitely. Do you still talk to Vikram?
I haven't been in touch with him, no, since
It
college.
just
I'd love to
kills me. So
connect,
he
but
was
yeah,
basically saying, forget all that crap. Don't even go get a job. Get
yeah.
the book written. Get a book written.
And I mean, and that advice I think really stuck with me for a long time because I didn't fancy myself a very strong writer.
Oh,
I didn't get into any advanced creative writing classes. Everyone rejected me for like all the prestigious creative writing stuff. I just
no.
I got no traction. But I don't know, Vikram, he saw something which I really deeply appreciate, and he really
Yeah.
encouraged me with my writing. And in the beginning days in working in book publishing, I really fancied myself as one of those book publishing people who wasn't working on a novel. But then kind of the writing bug bit me, and I started getting going. And yeah, that encouragement really kind of stuck with me for a while.
I love that story. I'm so glad I asked more about that. Let's go even earlier to when
hmm
you were a kid.
hmm
What was your understanding of work, what work is, and how soon did you have glimmers of this is where I'm going to head?
Yeah, so I mean, my understanding of work was really shaped by my dad. And my dad's a farmer, mostly rice. And so he definitely does not have anything in the way of like a traditional career. He'd be up at 4 in the morning. He'd be asleep pretty early and just sort of living with the sunlight. But he also had a very flexible schedule. And like he could go to my basketball games and stuff because like, the rice was just growing itself. He didn't need to be there. Yeah, so
Where
it was
where was this? Where in this
Northern
country do we
California. So
Oh,
actually, so
rice.
there's,
Okay.
yeah, people don't always know there's a lot of rice grown in California. In fact, most of the sushi that you eat in the United States is California rice. It's
Oh.
Japanese varietals grown in California. And so, yeah, I think I had stirrings of wanting to be a writer when I was very young. I actually, a couple of years ago, found a letter I wrote to Roald Dahl when I was 10, saying, it looks like really I think like really hard to be a writer. How do you do it? So yeah, I had stirrings, but I kind of cycled like everyone. I kind of cycled through a bunch of different things I wanted to potentially do, but the writing one really kind of stuck with me. And when I got to college, I just sort of kept gravitating to English classes and film classes and sort of went with that. And it's just been this pull for me towards books and creativity in some form for my entire life.
I think that's fascinating that you knew as a kid it looks hard to be a writer. I don't think I had that
Yeah,
intelligence, Nathan. I was like, I can do that.
I was kind of surprised seeing that too. So of course I completely forgot the
True.
letter, but yeah, I think I had because I think I'd tried writing some things, and I think I'd engaged with how hard it was at the time to write something that didn't feel copying and
Yeah.
derivative. And so I was very interested in how writers kind of came up with all this original stuff, which is really hard to do when you're a kid. I didn't realize it at the time, but it's really hard to do when you're a kid. And his books always struck me as so rich and imaginative. A funny thing that happened about this, I have to tell you this story too, and that's somewhat tangential. So this is part of a fifth grade assignment. We all write letters to our favorite authors, and people start getting the letters from their favorite authors back. Some people get, sometimes they're just like little postcards or whatever. But one day, my teacher pulled me aside, and she's, Nathan, I have some news for you. Roald Dahl died.
Oh God.
He died like
Oh,
right
that's so
after and so of course I'm in fifth grade. I'm like 10 years old. I'm like, oh my God, I killed Roald Dahl. And so it was this. I had this whole macabre kind of vision of like him like reading my letter and like killing over dead.
because
I'm
it
sure he
was
never saw it,
the
but yeah.
last beautiful thing. He's like, nothing is going to get better than this
No,
letter from
yeah,
little Nathan
yeah, in
Bransford. So.
Colusa, California. Yeah.
Oh, that's just a tragic story. Were you the only one who didn't get a letter back from your favorite author?
No,
Because
others
he
didn't
died.
too, but I'm pretty sure I was the only one whose
Who's
author
just
died shortly
died.
after they
Oh,
sent the letter.
gosh.
Yeah,
Oh, man,
yeah,
that's quite a story. That's a crazy story. Yeah,
yeah.
I did a little class kind of thing in my son's first grade classroom when he was
Hmm.
much younger than he is now. And I said to them, what do you think is the hardest thing about being a writer? And one of the kids raised his hand, I think it was a her, raised her hand and said, be doing the writing, like writing.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
yes, I can't believe you
Yeah,
knew
yeah.
that.
I mean, that's very wise because as a
I
kid, I
know.
always thought the hard part was thinking of ideas because that's what was hard for me as a kid. As an adult, it's the easy part. You have
Yeah.
ideas just like, I mean, ideas are a dime a dozen. It's the sitting down and writing that's the hard
Yeah.
part.
It's the craft.
And so it kind of flips. It's definitely not how I imagined it as a kid.
Yeah, yeah. I just had no concept. I thought it would be so easy.
Hmm.
I read these books I loved and I thought I could reproduce that kind of thing so easy. That took me a while to get that message. So you
Hmm.
and the kid I talked to, smart kids. Um, okay, so we really didn't talk about this. What is a literary agent? So talk about your being one. What is it? And you ended up leaving that after 8 years, I guess. So talk
Yeah,
about
I
that.
did. So a literary agent, it's kind of like a sports agent for books or kind of any kind of agent that sort of represents authors and then makes sales upon their behalf. And so essentially what the sale is they take book projects, whether a completed novel or a book proposal if it's nonfiction, shop it around to various publishers who then will make an offer if they're interested in publishing it. And then the agent negotiates the offer and negotiates the deal and negotiates the contract and things like that and kind of manages an author's career over the long haul, hoping that they will grow. Agents work on commission. And so it's typically 15% of whatever they sell, but like they work on spec. And so they take on clients for zero money. And then if they sell their book, they get 15% of whatever deal results. It's a really interesting business because major publishers these days won't accept unagented submissions. And so agents are a crucial layer between kind of the writing public and publishers, which until the rise of ebooks and self-publishing were pretty much the only way to get a book into the world. And so they've kind of fulfilled this crucial kind of gatekeeping taste and mix of taste and commerce over the years. Um, so yeah, I did that. I worked at the agency for 8 years. I agented for 6 of that.
Okay. When did you start your blog for writers?
So I started my blog after I started taking on clients, and
Okay.
I was, faced with a real significant challenge. Every agent starts with 0 clients, and you have to build your list, and it's really, really difficult. It's been particularly difficult because, older technology has allowed older, more established agents to take on more clients. And so it was just so hard to build my list. And so I felt like there was a great deal of potential out there in the United States. And at the time, the agency I worked for, Curtis Brown, didn't even have a website. Very prominent literary agency, and it was very common. I think William Morris at the time just had a website that was just like it just said like William Morris basically. And that, if I'm not mistaken, it was one of those like William Morris or ICM. It's like just like the most minimalistic website you could possibly have. And the sort of perspective on that was the people who need to know who we are know who we are. Right. And there are a
Wow.
lot of assumptions baked into that. A lot of assumptions baked into that. And the assumptions are that that anybody who is truly dedicated will find their way into networks that put them in contact with an agent, or they'll go to the library and check or reference this book called LMP, which is this massive phone book essentially of publishing professionals, and will somehow magically find the right agent. And it did happen. I mean, like S.E. Hinton, who wrote The Outsiders, I saw her query letter to an agent at Curtis Brown, which she wrote when she was 16. So people did somehow and she lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So like didn't know anybody. So people did somehow navigate it, but like it was a very opaque process. And so I felt like blogs were beginning to kind of take off, and I saw an opportunity to provide authors with information and on navigating the process also as a way to raise my profile within the industry and find new clients that way. And it worked. It really worked.
That's so wild because writers think they don't need me, I need them. And you,
Mhm.
as an agent, knew I need them. I need
Yeah,
writers. I need good
definitely,
stories.
definitely. And at the time there were a couple kind of pioneers of it. There was like Miss Stark and
Mhm.
Kristen Nelson doing pub rants. But I really also saw an opportunity to sort of take aspiring writers seriously, because there was a lot of kind of like at the time the culture was kind of like making fun of new writers and kind of being harsh and kind of and I just felt like there's a lot of well-intentioned people out there who just don't have the information, and that's all they need is they just need information. Whether they're from underrepresented backgrounds, whether they're places like my hometown, like and I didn't know anybody before. I didn't have connections. Anything I've done is just sort of through brute force. So, so yeah, it ended up really kind of taking on a life of its own at the time, because of that culture of kind of like the intentional opacity. People thought I was crazy in the industry. They're like, "What are you do? What are you doing?
Really?
Like, why are you doing this?
Oh.
Like, why would you want to like open yourself up to like the unwashed masses?" Thankfully, an exception to this was my boss and mentor at the time. He was extremely supportive and he had a lot of foresight around it, and which I really appreciate. Otherwise, it would probably have never gotten off the ground if I didn't have his support. But there were definitely people who were like, "What are you doing?"
I'm working really hard not to be insulted by the publishing industry, us unwashed masses. But
I
it's
mean, yeah, and
no wonder I'm so grateful for you. Like you were a voice in the wilderness going, you can come to this
Yeah,
industry and you
I
can
tried to
make it.
be. I definitely tried to be. And this is, of course, the tip of the icebergs of the assumptions that the publishing industry was making at the time, to say nothing of like all of the choices that they were making around the way that were acquiring and marketing books by underrepresented groups of all kinds. And which are, of course, in fits and starts is maybe kind of sort of getting better, but there's always been all of these like baked in assumptions into the industry that have been pretty pernicious.
Yeah.
This was just one of the easier ones to pop just by putting information out there.
So did you like being a literary agent?
There were parts of it that I definitely liked, and there are parts of it that I didn't like. What I really liked was the process of working with authors and sort of taking on books that I believed in, working with the authors and to make the books better, and then watching the result. That was extremely gratifying. Another book behind me for the video people, you can see the Rock Paper Tiger by Lisa Brockman, which came to me as a query letter that was it was like 5 different kinds of books all in one, and we really worked together over the course of I think several years to turn it into this kind of cracking international suspense novel, and it did great, and it became one of Amazon's top books of the year, and that was an enormously gratifying
Yeah.
process to help be there as Lisa's career took off. What I didn't like were some of the things I've referenced, some of the attitudes of the industry. It's a very um, there's a bit of a monoculture of very kind of like suburban Ivy League, East Coast, kind of very white, just very like very not diverse in thought or in actual diversity, really. And it has been that way for the entire time I've been connected to the business. I also really was frustrated by the sort of resistance to innovation and resistance to change and resisting to just trying new things. And I just didn't feel a true cultural fit within the business. And the last thing that really tipped me over was just the sheer amount of forces that were outside of my control as an agent. So I could represent um you know, the best writer, the best book, but if a publisher didn't see what I saw and if a and see what I saw and publish it well, um it was just flowed completely out of my hands. And I realized that I could work, be as smart as I am or not smart or whatever, just be who I am, work really hard and get lucky and have a massive bestseller that completely changes my career, or not have that and struggle and just be like financially precarious for the foreseeable future. And that sort of lack of, or at least that sense I had of lack of power over my outcomes, kind of drove me crazy. And it kind of led me to wanting to try different things.
It was purely commission being a literary agent. There's no like,
So at the time as starting out, I was on I was on salary at $23,000 a year when I started in San Francisco. And so it was I was always just struggling
Mhm.
to get by and to make it all work. And by the time that I left, I still wasn't making very much money, but it was a mix of kind of commission and then like, because I at the time I was representing a lot of audiobooks for like the estates. So like this, I represented the estate of Winston Churchill. I sold a lot of audio deals for other agents and things like that. So I was bringing in commission on the top of my own sales, which well, I was a young fledgling agent. They weren't huge. And so yeah, it was always I was always kind of in this state of kind of precariousness financially.
can I ask you a really, well, I'm going to ask you a really kind of nerdy question. Well,
Hmm.
it's not nerdy or I would know the answer. So I'm reading the journals again of L.M. Montgomery, the author of Anne of Green Gables. When
Hmm.
she sold Anne of Green Gables to Elsie Page, it's beautiful to read because she's such a classic first-time author. She says, "It's a terrible deal, but I'm scared of losing my chance, so I'm gonna take
Hmm.
it." And what she says that was terrible is that she was gonna get 10% off of the wholesale. Is that terrible? Is that I don't know.
Ten
I didn't
percent
even
of the
know
off of the wholesale. I think she might mean the retail price, the wholesale
10% off the
price. The wholesale, yeah, that's not a phrasing I'm familiar with when I time in
like,
the
I'm
business,
wondering if what the
but
publishing company sold the book to publish to
I'm
retailers.
thinking it's a way of saying 10% of the retail price,
Isn't
the
that
wholesale
normal?
price. Actually, no. Wholesale must be the 50% discount that.
That's what I'm thinking. Like,
Yeah. I'm
the
guessing it was more like
publishing
a
Elsie Page sold it
5%
to
retail. Because let's
yeah.
okay, so the discount is typically 50% that from the list price to bookstores, book, and then but typically authors are, for hardcover, authors are paid usually 10% of the list price to start for hardcover. And so she may be getting like 5% if it's the wholesale price that the bookstore pays. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, weird. And
Did
then
she
she
mention
was
in advance? Did she get in advance?
no advance. I don't think there
Yeah.
was an advance. I'm
But
not
see, this
sure.
is
And then
also
she was locked into it for 5 years too.
that's actually not so bad because actually
Okay.
most times there's most new books are sold as term of copyright deals, unless the rights are reverted if they go out of print. But this partly is what led to the rise of literary agents in the
Right.
1800s into the 20th century. There's a new book that just came out that I haven't read yet about it, but I've read some reviews of the book that kind of summarize some of the key early players in um, but yeah, I mean, it was really amazing working at Curtis Brown because Curtis Brown's over 100 years old, and so I'd go back into the old royalty books and see like handwritten royalty sort of ledger lines for like
Wow.
Rebecca, and all these old books that are classics, and just this what a storied history of it was really amazing to work there.
So you're kind of it's not financially what you need or want. You've got these little qualms. How long was it that you were kind of thinking, I need to do something else? And
It
then
was so yeah, it
what
was
was
sort of
next?
the last year of agenting where I just sort of was like not in a good place kind of in my life. Wasn't in a good place mentally. Just felt like I was spinning my wheels. Just had some like professional setbacks, like authors that I was trying to champion who just weren't catching on for reasons I found completely inexplicable. I was vindicated because one of these is now a big best-selling author. But yeah, I just was like, I was like, I was really kind of ready for something new. And what came along was an opportunity to be CNET's first social media manager. So CNET is a tech news and reviews website. And I'd walk by their offices all the time because I lived nearby them, and they always looked like they were having a blast. They always having like they'd always be outside like having these parties and like food trucks and all this stuff. And I was like, man, these CNET people, they look like they're having a good time. And so yeah, at the time CNET didn't have a social media manager, and it was I think it was like 2010, somewhere around there. And I had more followers on Twitter than CNET had, and I was like, guys, I should not have more followers than you. And it was a really, really scary big leap because I was known online and my blog was pretty big at that time, probably at its peak. Um, and I had 100,000 followers, however many on Twitter, and everyone just knew me for books, my own books, and then as an agent. And my whole identity over the last 8 years had been wrapped up in books. Um, but I just felt like I had to go. And so I had the time I had like 20 clients. I had to call all of them and tell them I was leaving the business, sending their careers into kind of various, like not like into a bit of limbo. I made sure that they landed with, I found everyone in agent within Curtis Brown that I could, and some were
Amazing.
still with Curtis Brown, some was doing great. Like, so yeah, it all ended up working well, but it was seriously like breaking up with 20 people in a row, like to having 20 breakup calls
Oh,
one day.
God.
It was
And it's not
miserable.
automatic, right? You could have just left them,
I could have
right?
just pieced out, sure, but I
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah.
leave everyone in a good place.
You left everyone
Um,
settled with someone. That's amazing.
yeah. I think almost everybody. I wasn't there are a handful that wasn't able to, but I did the best I could. And yeah, and so then what excited me out CNET was tech, like it was, and it was new, and just especially at the time, it was a very exciting time for tech. It was the early
Mhm.
days of the iPhone. It was before kind of social media turned toxic. It was just a really exciting time to be in San Francisco, and to be trying something totally different. So I made that big leap, which was really terrifying. Sometimes I still look back, like, what if I just stuck it out in agenting? What if I had, stayed and kind of stayed the course? But I think I know I just had to do it. Like I can't like really look back. I'm sure because I'm sure that eventually some of the clients I was working with, they did go on to become bestsellers, and my career probably would have really turned a corner if I just stuck around a couple more years. Not that my career was bad; it was fine, but I would probably would have gotten to another level in a couple years. But I'm still really grateful I took that leap because it set me on a really interesting course where I got to see a lot of new and different things.
So no regret. I love that. I, I love how scary it
No
was and you
regrets,
did
but
it anyway.
question. It's
Yeah,
definitely, it's
question.
like, oh, impossible not to kind of be like, man, what if I
It's
just stuck it out?
impossible, but it's
Hmm.
impossible not to wonder, but it's also impossible to know. Like there's no
Yeah.
knowing that other path because you didn't take it. What did you think? What did you do with your nathanbransford.com at that time? I mean, I kind of remember, but were you thinking, oh God, what am I going to do? I have this whole
I kept it going.
presentation as a lit
Yeah, I
agent.
kept it going because I still had my own books were starting to come out around that time. So
Oh,
I still had
what?
the vantage point of an author to go on. And I transitioned it more toward writing craft. Um, and yeah, I really kept it going for years. I kept the pace up too. I was working on the weekends and at night, and I don't know how I did it, honestly, but partly contributed to I kind of really crashed after that whole transition. I got divorced. Like it was a real kind of like period of real kind of life rebuilding when I got to CNET. Which was great. It was really fun working there. Everything I saw was real.
Cool.
Yeah, it was so fun. I was so thankful for that. But like the rest of my life was a disaster. But CNET was great.
We didn't
Um,
even go ahead.
oh, but yeah, no, I kept it going with the books and the blog, and pretty much never let up until I arrived at a different company many years later that I'm sure we'll get to.
Did the blog get more techy though? Didn't you sometimes do kind of some tech
Yeah,
announcement sort of things?
yeah, I wrote for CNET a little bit, just on some of those social media related um, um, kind of coverage. So I wrote about Facebook some, and then I also did. I also wrote about books for CNET. So there was, it was kind of the rise of ebooks at the time, and there were a lot of questions around why ebooks were so expensive, and so I wrote an explainer for CNET on why that is. So yeah, there was definitely blending and mixing, and I really enjoyed that job. CNET, the people were amazing. It was a really great job. Really enjoyed it.
So somewhere in there, you wrote Jacob Wonderbar before you
Yeah.
left
So yeah, so I
litigation.
wrote that while I was an agent. It actually wasn't my first novel, or even first thing I wrote. First, I wrote a screenplay, and I entered it in some competition, and I think it did pretty well. I think it was like a finalist. I was like, oh, maybe I can do this writing thing. Then I changed, but then I didn't know anyone in Hollywood. I had no intention to live in LA, and at the time I was in San Francisco, so I was just like, what am I doing? So I turned that into a book, tried to find an agent, didn't sell. And then I, or didn't even find an agent even. I had an agent who wanted me to revise it, and I just didn't have the inclination or energy, even though I knew he was right. So I
Ugh.
had this idea about a kid who was trapped on a planet full of substitute teachers, and that's where substitute teachers come from. And I was like, I think I'm going to go for this. I felt really crazy every step of the way I wrote it. But yeah, I was agenting at the time. But this was also amid the financial crisis of um, around 2008. So there was really not much to do as an agent because the publishers were just a
Uh,
mess, and my boss basically advised me to kind of shut down new submissions for the rest of the year, and so I had all this time on my hands which was new for me, which I then kind of plowed into Jacob Wonderbar. And then, yeah, that ended up working. And so these books were kind of beginning to come out. But yeah, I wrote the first one and the first half of the second one, and then my life fell apart. And so I really kind of had to really grit through it to finish the
to
second
write the
one and
third.
to write the third one, because I have pretty tight deadlines too.
Oh, so the contract was for a trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So
Well, it was
Jacob
initially for
Wonderbar.
two that became three, but yeah. Luckily, I called my agent when I started going through the divorce and asked her to push back my delivery date. So if there are any, and she worked on that and got it all taken care of for me. So any writers
Good.
out there, talk to your agent when you experience major life challenges. Their agent can probably help you. Don't,
Oh,
if I
that's
just
great.
held it in, I would have just somehow had to like finish like in a rush amid like a total crisis.
Oh my gosh. And you're okay. Now you're in a new job too, which
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
sometimes bumpy, but you
yeah.
did really like it. How long did you do CNET?
So I was there for, I want to say, I'm gonna have to look at my own LinkedIn to remember my career. I think I
I
was
worry
there.
sometimes, Nathan, that this podcast is like a job interview, which is the last thing I would want it to be. But
Well, no, no, totally. But I really enjoy hearing about other people's career trajectories, particularly because mine's so weird. I was at CNET for about 3 or 4 years, I want to say, and
okay,
then I was recruited for a new job. And at the time, also, I'd moved to New
so
York
crazy.
with CNET. CNET had a New York office, and it was one of the difficulties of doing social media was news would break on East Coast hours. I'd be like in bed and looking at my phone and just be like, "Oh no!" like, you know, um, one of those early tiny iPhones too, no less. So yeah, so I moved to the East Coast, but I was recruited for an opportunity to really exciting opportunity to basically create a new online community from scratch for Freelancers Union, which is a nonprofit that is an advocate for independent workers and freelancers. I wasn't going to be a freelancer. It was a paid salary job. But I got a huge raise and went to work in Brooklyn for Freelancers Union and built an online community for them for scratch, as well as managing kind of communications. And I had this whole team. Um, what did I do? Communications, blog and newsletter, social media, online community, and then kind of also was a bit of because I had some product management experience from CNET. I helped kind of be a product manager for their insurance marketplace and things like that. So I did a bunch of different things.
So you got
Um,
recruited. Like someone said, "Hey Nathan, we see you. We want you
hmm
over here."
Yeah, an agency sort of
That's like
connected
my
me with it.
dream.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, it was pretty amazing, particularly because like I went from just scraping by as in book publishing and doing I mean by the standards of publishing I was doing pretty good, like but not by good by like New York and San Francisco standards. And I really was kind of craving the feeling of not having to worry as much about money all the time. And so getting into these, being recruited for these jobs, and they're like, look at the salary we think we can get you. And I was like, holy crap, are you kidding me? I could save money on
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So the next two jobs that I got were I was recruited for. And I think that there are pros and cons with that. I mean, I think that they both were incredible opportunities. But I was sort of riding the wave more than I was charting my own course.
Okay.
And okay, so the next job that I got offered like 2 years later was with Bridgewater Associates, which is the world's largest hedge fund. And they have a very, very famous culture of radical transparency, radical honesty, where pretty much the worst thing you can do is lie or shade the truth. And um I was really fascinated by the place. I was really fascinated by the idea of seeing inside those walls, and it was another huge salary jump for me. And so I left publishing, and I think it was like 7 years. I want to say it was like no 6 maybe 6 years later. I had quintupled my salary.
Oh my gosh.
Like, and it was just like, oh my gosh, now not only am I comfortable, like what am I even doing with this? And so yeah, it was just like, and it was just fascinating. It was a fascinating learning opportunity. I wanted to see inside those walls. I wanted to like understand how the place worked. And so the job that I was hired for was a new way of innovating recruiting through social networks. And so I kind of built this program for them, where I sort of refined the way that they identified talent. Um, and I wasn't there that long because I ended up getting laid off about a year and a half to 2 years after I started.
Oh wow.
Um, but I did have this moment where at the hedge fund where, I mean, I'd gone from the world of books to like the biggest hedge fund in the world. And I
So
was just
different.
like, and I sort of was at this concert, at an employee party, and like one of my favorite musicians steps on stage. I
Oh my
thought by
gosh.
as a surprise, and I'm drinking a top shelf whiskey, and I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, where in the hell am I? I'm in Connecticut. And looking around, I'm like, who are these people? Like, and I found this like commodities kind of guy who was like a farmer or a rancher from Texas. And I sat down next to him because he at least seemed like someone that I kind of knew from my past. And I was just like, what am I doing? And so that kind of, yeah, I think that it was amazing kind of getting pulled into this slipstream of capitalism, which can be very rewarding, but it definitely led me to a place where ended up being very confused
Oh
where I
my
was and what I was
gosh.
doing.
Oh, okay. I have a question coming up later that's going to help that. So I'm trying to decide whether to. I'm going to go ahead and say that I've kind of written this book about my work story. I did it basically just to work out my work story. What the heck is my work story?
Yeah,
But I would change jobs, always really kind of looking for different or better meaning. Typically,
yeah,
is what I looked for in jobs. Is I don't like this about this job. This one won't have that. I don't like this about this job. This one won't have that. So I'm going to go to that. But what I found is that you could not guess. Those things didn't tend to be a fix. Like, I
Yeah.
really want to work around more people. It's really not. Or anyway, but what always was true is if it was more money, it did make a difference. And
Yeah.
so I kind of have
Yeah.
this
That's
joke
the
in the
one
book
thing
that's
you could
like, I
count on,
kind of
right?
learned, yeah, it's like money is the meaning of life. Say that tongue in cheek, but you really do begin to realize like that's the only thing you can know for sure about the
Yeah.
next job is if it's going to make you more financially stable.
Hmm.
But it is fascinating to me that you did have that little sense of what the hell am I doing here? Like even in a lot, and it was a little bit of a lost feeling. Like maybe
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be, but
Yeah, it was
yeah, it's
definitely like a
interesting.
little bit of an out of body experience where I was just like I didn't recognize where I was and what I was doing. I mean, I really enjoyed working there. Like there's a lot of different stories about working at Bridgewater. Like for what it's worth, I thought it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. Made some of my best friends there who are still some of my best friends. And it was a fascinating place. So no regrets working there. However, it was a big signal that my life had kind of like blown off course, and I was not in a place where I really recognized myself. And I was so by the time the layoff came along, I was like ready to go and try to
Wow.
find the right thing.
I didn't realize it was a layoff. Layoffs are not fun. How long were you without work?
Yeah, it was my first one. Well, in some sense, I've never had a real job since.
Oh, I love
Um,
it.
yeah. So I mean, that's of course not true. I work very hard, but but yeah. So I was laid off. I had very generous severance, and so I had a little bit of time to sort of in Cobra. So I had a little bit of time to figure
Good.
things out, and I really cycled through what it is that I wanted to do. Um, I kind of started looking for jobs, and I'd reached a level in my career where there's not a huge amount of jobs that like are you know at the right level. And so it take a little while for them to come along. I came really close with this job at Google, and I think I was like I was the second choice, and the first person got it. And I wonder a little bit if I'd gone down that path, what that path might have looked like. So I probably would have taken the job. But I ended up getting offered a job at Uber to run to help run their tech blog. Um, and it would have meant going back into an office. It would have meant sort of back into another kind of intense corporate culture. And I just sort of felt like I couldn't do it. I just like I couldn't see myself going back into a corporate office 9 to 5 anymore. So I took one of several really big risks that have laid the groundwork for my current life. And one is I went back to the hiring manager and suggested that we make it in a consulting arrangement. That way I could contribute. I could help him build the blog and help him build out his team and help him with strategy and things like that. But I wouldn't have to go into the office. I wouldn't have to move. And I'd have time for creative projects. And so for a while, because I was working on a novel that I badly wanted to finish, it was the third version of that screenplay that I wrote, but a completely different way. And I really wanted to write it, wanted to have time to write. And so for the first time in my life, I really took a risk for creativity. And so during that time, I stitched together different corporate freelance roles, consulting with a couple startups. I consulted with Freelancers Union again, because one of my close friends was then now running Freelancers Union. And so I was helping her with strategy and things like that. So I was stitching together a life that
Yeah,
was very unconventional and kind of beginning to um, step off the sort of career treadmill, which was utterly terrifying.
I know.
Completely terrifying. Making this all sound so easy. It was completely effing terrifying.
It was terrifying, but so I have such a similar layoff story. I got laid off from a job in market research
Hmm.
and um immediately went to some ideas that seemed safe. So a university I'd worked for before, applied there, thought I could get a job there so easy. And the I ran into that same thing you're talking about with the levels. I had been a director, quote unquote, in market
Right.
research. And so
Right.
I tried to get into this kind of ground level role. And the second interview or this in the second interview said, "Why would you
Why
want
would you
this
want this?
job when you," and
Right.
I'm like,
Because I need a
it's like, how
job.
do you answer that without saying, because
Yeah.
I have payments on my Buick. That's
Totally.
why.
Totally. Totally.
They don't, it's like that his praise, it was
And there's
flattering that
no
he thought I was
convincing
too
them
good
either.
for his job,
Yeah.
but that
There's
doesn't
no
mean
convincing them
anything.
because they,
But,
yeah, totally. I ran into that
but
so many
so then
times.
I had this, old, client who was talking to me about possibly taking on contract work, and I'm kinda telling my husband, like, there's this part of me that sounds fun. The riskier choice sounds kind of fun because it seems unlimited, like, where could it
Yeah.
go from there? Did you have that sense of, "Ooh," or was it like, "Well, no, I just don't wanna go in an office and I'm gonna try this?"
Yeah, I'd love to say that it was like some nice, neat, orderly process, but like it was a lot of soul searching. It was a lot of just a lot of why am I doing this? A lot of why am I doing this was a really, really big one. And I think that's something that's a voice I've learned to shut out through time. Um because I'd be like, I think I just want to like work on books more. And that's like, why do you want to do that? That's just, it's crazy. That's crazy. Why do you want to do that? And I think if I dispense with that and just try and just like whatever I do, so like who cares where it comes from? There's no like answering that question doesn't really get you very far. And worrying about it, I think was a lot of wasted energy. But yeah, I just wanted to write the novel. Life's short. I think I would have really felt very, very like if I saw a bus hurtling toward me, my last thought would be like, why didn't you finish that novel, you idiot? Bam, you know? I didn't want that feeling.
Yeah. I know.
Um, so I was like, whatever, I'm gonna go for it. And so yeah, I missed one of the other things I did during this time was I also started taking on freelance editing projects and started building up my author services career. And what I eventually grew to realize is that I could do the things I love um, in a way that maximizes the things I liked about agenting, that maximizes my time connected with creativity, with writing, with storycraft, and mix it all together into a life that can sustain me and have much more financial security than agenting. And I kind of grasped my way there. I'm not, I'd be lying if it was some orderly process, but that's what I was reaching for was sort of how do I, and this is something I learned at the hedge fund. That's one of the reasons I'm so thankful I worked there. One of the crucial ideas that I learned is not to reject, not to create false binaries. Sometimes we
Okay.
think I can be creative or I can be financially secure. Like
Yeah.
as if these are like rigid things that are possible, the only two possibilities in life. I guess I need to be financially secure, but I'm only going to have like 10 minutes on the weekends, which isn't enough to be creative. And Bridgewater really teaches you to see the falseness in those binaries and that rigid way of thinking, and instead think, how can I have it all? How can I have all of these different things I want, and how can I make them fit together? And so that thinking was just so groundbreaking for me because I started to look at my life much more systematically and much more like a machine, which is what Bridgewater encourages you. What are the inputs? What are the outputs? What's the structure? How does the machine run? And what I learned was that I could have the financial security by running my business well and finding opportunities with paying clients. I could have time to write. I could be flexible and travel. I can to make this whole ecosystem work and feed on each other. So like work with clients supports my blog, which supports finding clients, which supports my books and supports my writing career. And in the whole thing, I'm learning about creativity and writing craft, and it all just fit together. And that's when I think back to those turning points of what if I had never left publishing, I would never have gained this
Yeah.
knowledge that I gained and this way of seeing the world and this that I learned at Bridgewater that let me do what I did, but in a way that I would enjoy way, way more.
So is all of your work right now, of your paid work, about writing and creating and books and authors
Yes.
and
So in
cool.
2019, I reached another inflection point where I was like, I was enjoying where I work with authors. It wasn't yet enough to pay my bills, but it was close enough that I was like, I think I can get there. My Uber work was going to be wrapping up, and I was like, it's time to make the leap, make the cut the final chords. It's kind of what it was. I'd already made the leap, but I kind of cut my last remaining kind of safety cables,
My gosh.
and have been working solo ever since, solely in the world of books, and that's how I make my living.
Do you ever think longingly of the quintuplet the how did you say it? You
Yeah,
quintupled your
that old
salary. Do you ever
salary, that
think
old salary
longingly of that?
ad. Yeah, and especially that Cadillac health insurance. Oh my gosh, the benefits. They really take care of people there. And yeah,
So
definitely. I mean,
I'm gonna get on LinkedIn and look up see if Bridgewater has any openings right now.
yeah. I mean, I really, I'm telling you, they treat their employees well. But it's a very intense place to work. Um, uh, yeah, I sometimes it is nice to like imagine a nice cushy 9 to 5, where I don't have to like worry about paying for my own health insurance, where I don't have to like fix random site outages and random stuff that can completely collapse my business. And I'm dealing with a really significant challenge right now, which is my whole business model is based around search and people finding my blog and subscribing to my newsletter, becoming a client, and finding me as an editor. Google completely changed their search was in March to lean into AI results, and so my entire model has completely been
Oh
kind
my
of
gosh.
like messed up. And I also had pretty sophisticated search ads, and the effectiveness of those have also stopped working. And more authors are turning to AI to kind of for publishing advice, and so my whole model is kind of under threat. And now I have to figure all this out. So yeah, it's not easy to like fly the plane, fix the plane, fly
It's
the plane.
yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to think about being a passenger a little bit, but I think the benefits outweigh for me, the benefits of flexibility, the ability to kind of like do work I find meaningful is more important to me than a cushy salary and a cushy job.
Okay, that's one of my questions I was going to ask. Is at this point in your career, what is important? What is most important to you about work? Making enough, being your own boss, the
hmm
work meaning something, and you would say it's the meaning, it's the work needs to be meaningful?
For me, it flows first from meaning,
Mm,
definitely. But if to me, it's not like a ranked list. It's an ecosystem, right? Meaning is a crucial pillar of the ecosystem. Um, Financial security is a crucial pillar of the ecosystem.
yeah.
Like I'm not making Bridgewater money, but like I'm doing fine. I have enough to do what I want to do in life. And that's all that's important to me. I'm not someone who's motivated by money for money's sake, right? Some people are more money motivated, which is great. Like no more power to you. But for me, getting in tune with my core values, it's more about meaning, creativity, financial security, and I actually write down these values. I have a whole like spreadsheet that has like the
Oh
things
my
that are important to
gosh.
me and what I'm optimizing for. And let me
Nathan has a
actually.
spreadsheet for his
I have
values. I love it.
spreadsheets on spreadsheets on spreadsheets, but yeah, mine are like so my core pillars of my life are friends and relationship, family, creativity, challenge and personal growth, health. So like working out's really important to me, security and social justice. So those are my like how many is that? That's seven pillars that no matter what I do in work or personal life, I try and optimize those 7 things. Try and be a good, you know, son, brother, uncle, try and be a good husband. So I have systems that support all of these core pillars of my identity. It's weird. I know to people who are like, who are a little not as structured as I am, it sounds kind of nightmarish, but it's a system that works for me.
No, I love it. I fell into this world of this values thing several years ago, and I would see people would have their list of values. Well, they would talk about areas of life, how
hmm
like mind, body, spirit, friends and family,
Yeah.
creativity, whatever. And then they would say you kind of examine it every month or so to figure out which one maybe you should could use the most attention right now.
Interesting.
But it sounds to me like you kind of try to keep them all working,
Yeah, exactly. And I think
no
I think
pillar higher than.
yeah, I think it's really important to not think of your pillars as being separate from the others, because the
Yeah.
chances are they can really reinforce the other ones. And so, for instance, I really just want to make the world a better place. I want to leave the world better than I found it. At least my efforts contribute to making the world a better place. The primary vehicle that I do that is via a program I started with We Need Diverse Books to help authors from underrepresented backgrounds. And so, like, my kind of even my sort of attempts at making the world a better place are connected to the book's ecosystem.
Yeah.
And so, I just try and like, and even working from home helps me be a better husband. I'm sort of able to pick up slack when around the house and stuff when I need to. Um, so all of these things I think of as like as an ecosystem more than if I thought of like financial security and creativity as being separate, I might have a day job and write on the side. I might go work at a homeless shelter, which is amazing. I mean, we need more people doing things like that. But I try and just kind of weave it all together. That's just my
I
own
love
personal
that.
approach. And what I find is that it boosts the whole when you do that.
So you consider yourself a you probably do not like the noun creative, a creative, but that's the world you live in, right? You would call yourself an artist, a creator.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think, but when you look at the sort of output, the answer is yes. And I think one of the things um, one of the really great things about learning at an agency, learning at a literary agency is there's no such thing as a creative type, right? And I don't think there are markers of what creative people are like. And I realized that there are so many different ways to write a book. There's so many different types of people who write books. And so yes, I think at the end of the day, I value creativity. I value creating. I really like writing. But yeah, but even it's so weird to think of myself as a creative person, which I think you sensed. Like I think you know me well enough to know that I might be like, yeah, am I like I don't know, like I'm
Yeah.
just doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, okay. Um, let's get you some business. What is what's your pitch? I'm gonna pick two of the things that I know you do.
Mhm.
What is your pitch for editing? What do you
Yeah,
tell
so
people
I
you
I
do?
really take pride in my ability to help writers elevate their craft. So for editing, typically I start with a full manuscript, or at least as far as an author's been able to get on their own. And I offer two approaches to give feedback. One is kind of a high level critique, and one where I really get in there with the prose and help improve the line edit writing craft, line by line writing craft. And so yeah, so I'm usually for editing, I'm usually a good fit for people who have finished a book, a novel or memoir is really my wheelhouse, and are ready to see what the world thinks of it, whether that's seeking an agent or self-publishing.
Okay, love it. But you do have different price levels, so
For
kind
that,
of
yeah, I do.
kind of a high level line by
To be
line and then
transparent, I'm on the more expensive side, but I also connect people who can't afford my rates to editors who are more affordable.
oh, look at you.
Mhm.
Okay. He
And
also
then
has
for
a book called
beginning,
How to Write a Novel
yeah,
that
exactly. So for beginning writers, then I have the book and the blog, and so like how to write a novel, which is basically really more. It's less about the nuts and bolts of craft, although there's some in there, and more about just the mindset of
yeah.
the mindset of finishing a novel, and how to stay in the right mindset and weather the ups and downs of the creative process.
Yeah, I can Nathan, you tell people in that book, if you don't have thousands of dollars laying around, just get friends to edit your book.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, totally, totally. No, no, totally. I'm very transparent that you don't have to pay for editing. Like as long
you
as
don't have to, but
you don't have to pay for editing, but it can really help, and
yeah.
it can help level up your career. And so I put my own money and time where my mouth is. All my books were edited by someone with New York publishing experience prior to me sending them out.
Amazing.
And I'm in the position, fortunately, where I can do some get there. So I'm not always spending a huge amount of money on it, but I have paid for editing too. So, but if you can't swing that, yeah, just get somebody to read it, someone you trust. It's because have to have some feedback before you send it out.
Yeah. You talked to me once about take it as far as you can
Hmm.
where you're very sure of it before you make an agent or someone tell you if it's,
Yeah.
and that was really, really, really good advice. It's actually why my book is still sitting on my computer because it's
Just
not
keep
there.
at it. Just keep at it. Keep at it.
I am definitely going to keep at it. So, which brings me to the next thing I want you to do. What's your pitch for a coaching call, which I have done with you? So I could pitch you and I will, but I want to hear what you would say that is.
Yeah, well, I mean, for my coaching calls, they really take every kind of shape and form. Some of it
Yeah.
is sort of the creative life kind of conversation along the lines of what you and I had, of just sort of like how to organize a creative life and how to make mental time and space for your writing, how to embrace being a creative person or whatever you need to do to sort of like, get over the humps to get the thing done, all the way to the nuts and bolts of writing craft. I can talk through particular plot points, or the industry, sort of navigating
Yeah.
agents, marketing and social media. I've really seen a lot in being connected to industry nearly 25 years now, and having approached it from many different standpoints. Literary agent, published author, self-published author, freelance editor, and so I wear a lot of different hats. But these calls, if you feel stuck, just schedule a call with me and we can talk it through. And if I can't get you unstuck, then I probably know someone who can.
Yes, it was so helpful for me. I will do it again. Unfortunately for you, it was like therapy for me, and I don't have a different therapy um thing. So next time I call you, will be like, Nathan, it's time for another therapy session.
Well, no, that's a half of it almost always. And I think that it is like one thing I can offer, because as an agent, I thought I knew what it was like being an author because I was connected to authors all day. It was so different going through the process as an
Oh,
author.
wow.
And so I have a lot of sympathy for writers, and also writers at every stage. Because like I said, I was the least talented person in my creative writing class. Like no one saw promise in me except for Vikram Seth. Thank you, Vikram. And so I didn't, anywhere I got was from other people helping me and just charging through. So I have an enormous amount of empathy for writers at all stages of the process, because chances are I was at that stage at some point.
Yeah, that's got to be what people feel from you, is that empathy, and then like you have the empathy plus the knowledge, and it's just so helpful. One of the things you said to me that was my favorite on my coach call, so I'm just giving this away for free to all of you people, but do a coaching call with Nathan. It's so helpful. But you talked to me about how there's a couple different feelings. Um, there's the vague sense that there might be something different out there or something better. And there's like
Hmm.
nothing you can do with that really. But then
Hmm.
there's the kind of aha, like, ooh, maybe I could do this.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what you had when you decided to start offering editing services.
Yeah.
And at the time when you and I talked, that podcast thing was in my head. It was
Yeah.
in there somewhere. And now look at me. I'm
Look at
doing
you.
it.
I mean,
I
it's
did.
amazing. I was so excited when I saw that you were doing this. It's like, it's amazing. You
Yeah,
just
it's
went for it.
so
You didn't let any kind of, I mean, I'm sure there were like
I
some questions
almost let
along the
all
way,
the fear.
but
It's
you did,
just
you powered through and you did
I was like,
it.
why would I do this? Why do I don't know
Yeah.
why it's so
Yeah.
audacious and
Yeah.
but I just did it anyway. I was so
Yeah.
nervous and did it anyway. And that's why, is because I'm like, it feels like one of those ideas that is a real idea, not a vague sense. And so
Yeah.
I
And it's
just
such a good
changed
idea.
it.
And
And that was
I'm really
such great advice.
happy
Oh,
to be
and
here.
the thing is that you said to me is you need to make room in your life to receive
Hmm.
those ideas. So you need
Hmm.
space. You need white
Hmm.
space. You need time I think you called it creative time, where you're not making anything.
Yeah.
You're just allowing the ideas to come, which is
Yeah.
so helpful. So I
I'm so
really,
glad. I mean,
really,
and look, we're here. This is so cool. Like,
what
you really did it.
I know, I know. It's like, I feel very excited about that. And I'm talking to you. It's so full circle-y.
Yeah.
Um, so many things. Okay. If someone wants to be a writer, they don't have an established paying career yet, so maybe they're real young, whatever.
Hmm.
They know it's what they want. What would you tell them to do? How do they proceed?
I mean, I personally am someone who thinks and this isn't like kind of a cultural belief. I believe good creativity flows from stability much more than precariousness. And I feel like, yes, be creative. Yes, start writing the novel. But um, if you want to make money writing and in the publishing industry, like literally, there's a million different ways that are better to make money than writing and publishing. And so it can't be something that you could depend upon for that. If it comes along, wonderful. But I think the thing I would encourage people is to build your creative ecosystem and not just think, oh, all I have to do is write a novel, and if I don't do that, I'm gonna like be destitute. Like I don't think good creativity can flow from that kind of precariousness. And so it's like, how do you
Amazing.
build your creative ecosystem? How can you have the financial stability to be able to be creative, to have time where have stress-free time in your life where you can have creative time? And what is your base? And so I'm a big believer in those ecosystems, and then I'm also a believer in translating that into a schedule and a rhythm. And so different people thrive on different levels of regularity, and I recognize that, but scheduling your must do's and then creating blocks of creative time that you stick to is the best way to actually make progress on whatever it is that you're trying to do. So yeah, I'm a believer in not just like go write I love Vikram Seth telling me go into the basement and
Yes.
write your novel. But for me, I've only been able to be creative in times when I was stable.
But you do think I think I heard you say, though, it does make sense for a person who thinks they want that creative element. They might wanna write a book or whatever. It does make sense for them to consider the time a job that pays will take from you, the time
Yeah,
and energy, because you
yeah. And that's why I think it's really helpful to think of your life in terms of a calendar, honestly, just to really schedule all of your time down to individual blocks and to really think about, okay, this block, this job, you're evaluating it in terms of your ecosystem. And I wish I had done this much earlier because the Bridgewater job was amazing. It filled many boxes in some ways, but I didn't write a word while I was there. I bought a laptop thinking I was going to like write on the bus to and from work. And like, no, I didn't do that. I was exhausted. Um, and so evaluating, your opportunities in your ecosystem might make a high paying job with that you don't like very much, but you know what it's for, more palatable if you know how it all fits together.
That's really good. I love that. Is there something you wish you could fix for writers?
That's a really good question. A lot of things that could be fixed for writers. I I I wish the publishing industry were a little bit more attuned to the what it's like to be a writer these days.
Hmm.
I don't think that the publishing industry, the traditional publishing industry, is currently doing a good job of cultivating like a positive experience for people who may become writers. Like there are a lot of no response, mean no agents who aren't getting back to authors. It's very opaque. It's very, very difficult. It's a very untransparent industry. Um, and I really wish it were a better ecosystem because they really leave a lot of writers in limbo in a way that is very harmful to psyches, but then harmful to careers. Like if authors just knew, for instance, that it was a non-starter or that it wasn't going to work much quicker or in a reasonable time frame, they could move on to other things. But instead,
Yeah.
it's very common in the industry to be left on hold for months, years, even. And I understand how that looks from the inside because you're just constantly besieged. There are constantly more writers. Another one's going to come along, and you're financially incentivized to focus on what pays, and what doesn't pay is to like spend a lot of time hand holding unpublished authors. But I don't know. I just think that the ecosystem is a bit broken in many respects, and I wish that it was a little bit more of I wish we were a stronger community.
That's a good one. Agree. I had it hurt me, I will say. The
Hmm.
long time it can take to get answers did set me back a bit. I didn't know what to do with it, and I stayed treading water in really like where it really didn't make sense to still be
Yeah.
treading. But so I feel that deep. I'm gonna tangent for a little sort of tangent
Yeah.
because I actually let's see if I have this text that I want. Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I texted Felicity, my sister
Hmm.
Felicity, and said, "Tell me if you have any questions for Nathan. I'm going to tell him you said hi and ask you questions." So
Yeah.
she does have one that I'll see if I can get to.
Okay.
But I did the same thing with my husband. I said, "So I'm about to interview Nathan Bransford. There's people in my life that I have to explain to him every time I talk about them." And I think I've done it enough with you that he
Yeah.
knows. So
Yeah.
like the coaching call and stuff that I had with you. And so I'm like, he's the one who used to be a literary agent. And he helps writers write books. He's like, I have no questions for that. That's way outside my
Yeah. Yeah.
ecosystem.
Yeah.
I said, exactly. So what
Yeah.
would you ask him? And
Oh,
he said,
interesting.
what does he do that's not those things? What do you like to do? And that was
Oh,
on my
yeah.
list anyway.
Yeah.
So let's tangent for a minute and talk
Yeah.
about what else you do.
Yeah. So outside of work, and I work out a lot. I work out like 5 times a week. I really value just sort of also from a creativity standpoint. I mean, just from a life standpoint, like, I
Yeah.
value being healthy, but like I think working out and being physically active is super important to creativity. And I'll often have my best ideas when I'm working out. But so I have to be honest, I scheduled this call at such a time when I knew there wasn't going to be a World Cup game because I watch a ton of soccer. And so, yeah, I think soccer is my main
Wow.
creative, non-writing hobby. I watch a ton of soccer.
What?
And so, yeah.
What's your workout? Like weights, running? What do you
I
do?
do, yeah. So Monday, I'm pretty regimented, as you can probably tell. So Monday spin
What a
class,
surprise. You have a spreadsheet?
yeah, yeah. Monday spin class, Tuesday Pilates, Wednesday spin class, Thursday core workouts at home, 5 personal trainer at the gym, lifting
Oh my
weights.
gosh.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
yeah,
invest
that's
a
a
lot
bit.
in it. I mean, I'm not like fabulously wealthy to be doing that, but it's so important to me that I invest a lot of my income in it.
Wow. Okay, and the soccer, I saw a meme I sent to my younger sister at charity, but it makes me think of you too that said, the World Cup situation being in the US. It's like the US has invited all our cousins for a sleepover because our parents
Yeah,
hate each other.
yeah, 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 totally.
Yeah, she's like the vibe.
Uh,
That's the vibe. It's just,
it is a weird vibe to be having the World Cup right now because the country's in such a weird place, and so we're kind of totally inviting the world into our mess.
uh-huh.
But I felt I wasn't sure how to feel about it, but I took a trip to Europe to watch soccer, of course, as one would, 2 months ago, and I was in Scotland and hanging out with one of my Scottish friends, and his friends were going to Boston, and they were like, "You got to go to Boston! You got to go to Boston! Like, come with us to Boston. It's gonna be so amazing." And I was like, "Why would I want to go to Boston in June?" But sure enough, now you see all the social media videos where I think they knew how crazy it was gonna be. But
I heard that the Scotland drank all Boston's
yeah,
beer.
they drained Boston of beer, and so I that kind of led me to feel like, okay, there's excitement out there, even though the world mostly
Do
hates
you
us right
have,
now.
scared to even ask, do you have any sense of patriotism? Do you,
I do, I do. I am like I definitely have my frustrations with the country right now.
uh-huh.
So for the United States first game, I wore a NASA shirt, which is like as much patriotism as I could summon. Like, well, I love NASA, so I'll just wear a NASA shirt. That's my USA Pride
Excellent.
shirt. But no, I'm definitely rooting for the U.S.
Uh,
I've been rooting for the United States men's national team when I was a kid, and I was 22 and a senior in college when we went to the quarterfinals in Korea, and because I was in college, I could actually watch the games even though they're like at like 2 in the morning. Um, so I've been hoping the United States would get better ever since. And 24 years later, we're still waiting for that breakthrough.
So you've been watching soccer since before it was cool to watch soccer in this
Yeah, I
country.
mean, I before it was really easy even to watch. I would go to a bar in the Lower Haight in San Francisco called Mad Dog in the Fog, and was one of the only places to watch English Premier League games in the early 2000s. Yeah, I've been into it like for a long time.
Well, for the people not on video, I asked the patriotism question while wearing my red, white, and blue little,
Yeah, you
because
are.
it's
Yeah,
4th of July week. I'm
it's
kind of
coming
like
up. It's coming
going
up.
for
No,
it. Yeah.
I still love this country. I mean, it's not my favorite at the moment, but you know, we'll step back
It's not
into
your
hope,
favorite at the moment
hopefully.
because you love it and you have hope for it. It
Exactly.
could be
Yeah, I
better.
do have hope that
Exactly.
things will come around.
Um, okay, you once asked on your blog, why do you write to us writers? And I said, because I want to change the world, which has changed a bit. But I wonder two things from you. Do you remember that post? And do you
Hmm.
remember the general vibe you got from writers? And
Yeah.
then why do you write?
Yeah. No, that was amazing to post because I think at the time, the day that I posted that, I normally put a lot into my posts, but I didn't have anything that day, and I just decided, let me just turn it around and just ask a question. It's a pretty simple, straightforward question, and the outpouring was like instant. I was like, oh
We
man, this
wanted
one
to
touched.
talk about it so much.
Yeah, this one really struck a nerve. But it was fascinating just to see all the different reasons. I read all the comments. I read every single one, and it was really fascinating to see all the different responses. Um, and I think another reason I found it so fascinating was everyone had all these eloquent kind of answers and like you wanting to make the world a better place. Like I write because I have to, and it's how I know I'm alive, and all these other things. Or I like, you know, people have been through horrible things, and I found it fascinating because I don't know.
You
I
don't know
don't
why
know
you write?
why. I really don't. I really don't.
I don't anymore. Well, to
Yeah,
process the world, that's what I would say. It's
yeah. I
how
mean,
I process the world.
yeah, that's a good answer. And I think that's probably as closest to why I do it. I think I write in a kind of perpetual state of confusion about why I'm doing it.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, I
Because
am
you
like,
shut
why?
down that voice that asks why you would want to do a thing. You just do it
I
anyway.
eventually learned to shut it down, but I didn't fill it with an answer. I didn't fill it with a good answer. I didn't like craft a good narrative around why I do it. The most recent thing I wrote, I was about to get married. I got married in April, and things were so busy leading up to the wedding, and but I saw this email that was from my alumni association and was like, "Here's a screenwriting competition." And I was like, I'm going to do that. I had that moment, that moment we talked about
Uh-huh.
where I was like, I'm going to do that. And because why wouldn't you write a screenplay as you're about to get married and have a million other things to do? And so I banged out a screenplay,
Says the
and
groom, by the way.
yeah, yeah, well, yeah, no, she was much busier than I was at that stage. I'll be honest. A lot of my stuff was finished, but yeah, I still did it, and I don't know why. I don't know why. Now
You
it's
don't
just out
know
there kind of
why.
percolating.
We
But
have to have a part two, and you see.
yeah,
I just want to hear. That's so interesting that you don't
yeah,
know. You just do
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Because for me, it's always been like I wanted the career, Nathan. I
Hmm.
wanted
Hmm.
the writing career. I couldn't
Hmm.
get it. But
Yeah,
anytime I would weep and pray, weep about it, cry about it, whatever, like how can I can't I don't know what to do next, la 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 la. What would fix it is writing. It's like
yeah,
once I
yeah.
wrote, I didn't care anymore. I didn't care that I
No,
wasn't making
yeah,
money at it. It just
yeah,
brought me so much joy.
yeah. And I think that is what I've learned. That I think that's what I learned through the process of having Penguin publish my book. Because like at the beginning, I was broke. I wanted the money. I wanted to be best. I wanted the life of a writer very much. But then, and the books, they did fairly well, and like they're fine, but like it didn't change my life. The extra money definitely helped, but it didn't really change my life in a huge way. And so I realized it wasn't about, because I got the thing I wanted, and it didn't. And I woke up and I was still the same person with all the same problems. And so it just stopped being the thing I was shooting for anymore. There are definitely times, of course, I wish someone would. I have a novel that's on submission to publishers right now. My screenplay is now kind of like working through the competition. I have it with the literary manager, so I'm doing a lot of waiting. And in the past, I was like living and dying by all of that. But now I'm just sort of like anyone that reads it is like a bonus, and like I'm just thankful that literally anybody reads it at this point because it's the fun part is when you write it, and then after that it stops being fun because it even when it works, there's still it's fun, but I don't know, it's just hard. It's harder to have it out in the world than I think than it is to just be in control of it as a writer.
Ugh, I'm worried that's one of my problems is that I just really like that free play. It's like
Hmm.
I love the part where I get to write when I want, what I want.
Yeah,
Because
it's
nobody,
amazing. It's
it's kind of
hard.
fun.
It's hard, but it also is kind of truly the interesting and enjoyable part. And then the minute you start exposing it to the world, it invites a lot of different energy into that.
Yeah.
And I'm still kind of working my way through how best to engage with all of that. Sort of, do I share? How do I share? How do I kind of release, as much of my feelings around the response that will come back as possible, and recognize it that it's, about the other person more than me, and et cetera, et cetera. But like, um, I think that's kind of my next frontier. Is kind of getting more comfort around sharing, which is one reason why I leaped at this, because I was like, you need to be doing more things like this.
Excellent.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love being the vehicle for one of your
yeah.
aha moments, one of your ideas.
Hmm.
Um, go back to the wedding. You got married fairly recently, and that was another. The second thing my husband said was something about Hawaii. We've been to Hawaii a few times, and
Uh-huh.
he loves it. He said so.
Yeah.
Was asked. He said ask him something like about Hawaii. I don't remember what he said. Sorry, Michael. I don't remember the exact question because I
Hmm.
immediately answered. He just got married and went to Bora Bora. I think
Yeah.
I don't think he has any. I think he's a little ahead of us in the vacation
No,
world.
I like Hawaii too. I got Hawaii tips if you want them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
But Bora Bora, I mean, it's just fun to say. It just sounds
Yeah,
so
yeah.
romantic
It
and
just
perfect.
definitely sounds like somewhere that's like the end of the earth, but it's actually way closer than I thought it was. I thought it was going to be like a super far flight, but it's like an 8-hour flight from LA,
Oh,
to Tahiti, and
okay.
then a short hop to Bora Bora. It's not that far.
But
And
so from Missouri, though, wow,
from
I'd be on a
Missouri, you
plane
got
the
an
rest of
extra
my life.
few hops. Yeah.
Oh, darn.
Yeah. But
Um, uh,
yeah, it's a highly
okay,
recommend. It's beautiful.
it's highly recommend. Yeah, you said it was pretty much. What did you told me it was like? Is this real life kind of thing?
Yeah. It
It's
doesn't
just
even
too
seem
beautiful.
real. You like wake up and look at it, and it's just like, how is this even real?
Okay, so we're getting close, I promise.
Hmm.
But there's a couple more things. One of them is so I'll go ahead and set you up. Then in a couple more questions, I want you to do the "it worked for me." So be
Hmm.
thinking like that's something you do regularly or a big
Hmm.
aha moment that helps you find more meaning in life. That's
Hmm.
kind of the last thing we'll do. But before that, I wondered if you have you heard of Donald Miller, who wrote Blue Like Jazz and A Million Miles in a Thousand Years?
I haven't read Donald Miller. I don't believe, but I've heard of him. Yeah.
So where I'm going with this is he wrote Blue Like Jazz and then it was going to become a movie. And so he had to
Hmm.
hang out with the script writers and and Blue Like Jazz is memoir. So he was
Hmm.
turning his life into a movie and realizing my life is really boring. It's not a movie. Like,
Yeah.
and so he learned all these lessons about a good story that he wanted to apply to his life. And that reminds me of your writing advice so often, like your advice for protagonists, etc.
Hmm.
I take it like so deep, like it feels like life advice. And one of them is, well, you always talk about how the protagonist has to want something. And
Hmm.
that's a big one for me. I have done teachings on that. I've gone to high schools and talked about the elements of a story are is that you have a hero who wants something and there are obstacles
Yeah.
and they change. They're different in the end than they were in
Hmm.
the beginning. Kind of nothing
Yeah.
about whether they got what they wanted, but they're
Yeah.
different. And what I always tell them is you can't change the protagonist. It's you. You're the
Yeah.
protagonist of your
Yeah.
story, whether you like it or not. You
Hmm.
can't change the obstacles. They're coming at you from external. And you really can't change how you change. The only thing you can really change possibly is what you want. And so,
Hmm.
I went like on a drug awareness week once. And so I was trying to say, like, try to decide who you want to be now
Hmm.
to help shape that thing of what you're
Yeah.
changing. But
That's really. I like that way of thinking about that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so you don't, so you're okay with that? That I kind of sometimes
Yeah,
twist
I
your
mean,
writing advice to life
no,
advice?
totally. Because I think about it a lot. Because I am in therapy, and it is interesting how much I reach for writing and editing adjacent advice when I'm kind of trying
Really?
to process. Yeah, no, it is interesting because I think writing advice. There is really something about our self perception. I think that writing advice and especially active protagonists really kind of um, like elicits, right? I'm gonna grasp for what I mean here because it's tricky, but um, yeah, protagonists have to want something, bump up against obstacles, and what you draw upon are your strengths and weaknesses, which form the basis of your personality. And because we all have slightly different dials and things like that. Um, so yeah, I definitely think a lot about myself as, you know, a protagonist. And I think you're right that there's not a lot you can control in terms of the obstacles you face, although I am a big problem solver. And so I do believe in removing obstacles, but if you can, but yeah, I think it's an interesting way of thinking about things.
Have you heard the kind of the new trend? If your life was a movie, what would the audience be screaming right now?
Oh,
I really,
interesting. I
I
haven't
love
seen
that
that.
one. I mean,
Yeah.
it traumatizes me because I'm like,
Yeah.
I think they'd be screaming things I'm not brave enough to do. But but it's
I
a
don't
nice
know if
thought.
they'd be screaming at me. Yeah. I mean, I've had the internet screaming at me for long enough that I usually am
Yeah.
in tune with
The audience would
that.
be screaming nothing. You're doing such a great thing with your
Thanks.
ecosystem is in place, I think. One bit of advice that that's funny that I just said that because I'm quoting you, but I'll get to that. But you said of the protagonist that they need to be active, which
Hmm.
is a big one for writers. I think we tend to kind of have
Hmm.
some passive characters and the things are just happening to them.
Right.
But then you said, now, please note that I'm saying active. I'm not saying powerful. The
Right.
character can be as powerless to outside forces as Job, but even he at least tried to make sense of God's wrath. Even
Hmm.
just trying to figure something out or trying to make peace with circumstances beyond a character's control is being active. And I was like, oh, the hallelujah
Yeah.
chorus when you said that, because it's something I question in my own life so much. Am I being active?
Hmm.
Because I'm worried that I'm not. And especially when it comes to kind of my disconnect with career and work
Hmm.
and the arts, and my ecosystem is not well connected yet,
Yeah.
in my mind. But so am I being active? And that made me feel good about the fact that at least I'm trying to figure it out and working towards that.
Yeah, that's a really interesting principle because that protagonists have to be active because it's one place where storytelling feels like it diverges from real life because when someone's grief stricken and they're lying in bed and they're not doing anything, it feels like they're very inactive. So when writers try and recreate grief on the page, they often just show a character wandering around and feeling super aimless. But the thing is, I think the insight you have is that you're not actually during those periods, you're not actually passive. Your
Right.
thoughts are racing. You're trying to more actively trying to process things. And so, I think that when for writers, it's a really important lesson to really being in tune with the writing, but then also just from life to be in tune with the ways in which you are being active
Yeah.
and what you're choosing to be active on and toward.
There's so much to think about there. I'll never
Hmm.
stop thinking about it. But
Yeah,
I
I
commented
I
on
turn
that
it over a lot
post.
myself.
I commented on that post and, thanked you for that great thing and how I was sort of applying it to my world. The only thing I questioned at the time, it's very obvious that you would be saying that, for instance, about someone who's in a dystopian world where they're practically a prisoner. There's not a
Hmm.
lot of action they can do to fix their life. So then
Hmm.
it becomes, and my life is hardly a prison. It's like my career problems were hardly that. So I still had to question if I was being active enough. But I made a comment, and then you said this great thing. One bit of advice I have is to try to remove the pressure of feeling like you have to crack the code. It never feels like there's one big eureka moment where all of a sudden you have it all figured out.
Hmm.
It's a lot of feeling like you're building the plane while you're flying it, which was kind of the first time I'd really heard that phrase. But that was so helpful too, because I absolutely am always looking for my eureka moment.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
honestly always looking for rescue. That's why when you talked about being recruited by,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, I
Totally.
dream of that. I dream of that. I
Yeah.
want someone to just show up in my life and say,
Mm-hmm.
here's the dream, the career of your dreams. But
Yeah.
I would say, and you kind of answered this earlier, you still feel like you're building the plane?
Yes, definitely, definitely. And like last year I had the best year I've ever had as a freelancer. And then again, starting in March, Google all of a sudden just changed everything and my business is like very, very different in the last 3 months. And I don't know whether it's temporary or permanent. And so yeah, I gotta get back to work, kind of figuring out a new funnel. So yeah, it never really stops. I never really have reached a
Never
place where I'm
stops.
like, now everything is perfect and smooth sailing.
Now, I will
So
say, I told Felicity that quote, and she's like, I hate that quote. There's no way I would get on a plane that's not built.
Totally. No, totally. And it's the scariest thing. It's
But
the
it's
scariest
just
thing
the
about
truth.
stepping off
Yeah.
the treadmill is, and the path, the kind of tried and true path is that you do have to take that leap and trust that you're a good mechanic.
Trust the, yeah, boy. Um, Her question actually was do you know the backstory of Theo of Golden? Do you know anything about that book?
Yeah.
It's been on the bestseller
Yeah,
for so long. I just read
he
it.
was an older author. I mean, older, I don't
He
know.
wasn't even an author.
Yeah, self-published and with a plucky niece, I believe, who helped him promote it.
There's the key.
And yeah, it
Because
just struck a chord with people and is now a number one New York Times bestseller.
that's, yeah, it's wildly interesting to me. Because when I read it, to be honest, I felt a little, one of the things I feel like I learned first in writing is get kind of like, not hide the moral, but you don't, you can't be all moral. It's story. You want to tell
Hmm.
a story. You don't want it to be that you can, and for me, that book is very much like, it's a nice sermon. It's a sermon
Yeah.
really about being a great
Hmm.
person. And, so to me, it's message. It is a message more than just a story. And so I was a little surprised that it got through the gatekeepers, to be honest.
Well,
And then I
it
realized, well,
didn't.
it's
Yeah.
sold first.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Totally. No, it's really interesting. It is a really kind of can be of I think a books like that go up out of nowhere can give great insight into the disconnect between the publishing industry and the reading
Yeah,
public, I think.
exactly.
Because the books that come out of left field, they're not typically written with the prose and the polish and the style that is expected within traditional publishing, but they speak to people and they touch some raw nerves, some raw zeitgeist, and typically some raw emotionality that I think kind of can get smoothed out by the polish of traditional publishing. And it really makes me question a lot of my work as an editor because I'm kind of like, what am I doing here? Because like
Mm.
sometimes I think by kind of pushing people toward traditional publishing standards, which is if traditional publishing is someone's goal, it's my job as an editor to help them get
Right.
closer. There's a risk in smoothing out things that readers might not
Oh,
care
right.
about and might actually like. So yeah, I grapple with that a lot. Like, am I like, ruining the next Theo Golden by applying this lens that I've cultivated through 25 years that's very steeped in traditional publishing? And I don't know. I don't know the right answer. I'm just trying to ultimately help writers write the best book they can
Yeah.
in the way that they want to write it. But yeah, it's
I feel
interesting.
like surely your writer experience helps you not just speak from that lens of what the publishing company wants, but
Yeah, well, I try and be in tune with what the writer is ultimately trying to do. And kind
nice.
of frame my suggestions as ultimately their choice
Okay.
because you first have to write the book you want to write.
Yeah.
Secondarily, if your goal encompasses traditional publishing, then maybe there's some adjustments that might be mine, but they're only my best guess because there's no oracles and there's no rules in publishing. So it's a very like confusing process. But yeah, I mean, there are books like that just, man, they struck a chord.
So Theo of Golden was self-published, took off, sold a bunch. So then there was like publishing houses clamoring to publish it.
Hmm.
What's the standard practice? A publishing house took it on. Do they change nothing at that point? Because the book was already.
It can vary somewhat, but for the most part, they're usually kind of published as is. Sometimes there's some
Okay.
polishing that happens from the self-published stage to the traditional published stage, but if it's touching a nerve, I'm guessing that it probably passed through without much
Hmm.
change. And he got an agent, and so the agent negotiated the deal and all that stuff. So it didn't it
He got an
you know.
agent.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, caller Felicity White, for that question.
Yeah.
It led me more ways than I thought, because it's interesting to hear that you question how much, yeah, of that lens to put on. That's fascinating.
Hmm.
Okay, I think we're there. We're at the
Okay.
end. I want to hear it worked for me.
I just flew by.
Something.
I hope it flew by for listeners
I
too. But
know.
yeah,
And I think I got, sometimes I feel like I definitely didn't get to all the things I wanted, but I think I
yeah,
pretty much did. And yeah, so I want to hear what you would say to our audience. It worked for me, something, a aha moment, or something that regularly works for you to bring more meaning or center you on the meaning you've already discovered, your spreadsheet
yeah.
of values.
So, yeah. So I'm gonna delve a little bit more into something I've already referenced, which is the calendar and really kind of structuring your time. And so one thing that I do that I started doing when I started freelancing is what I call extreme calendaring. And so I put everything I do pretty much into a calendar. So every Sunday I plan my week in half-hour increments. And so travel time, like appointments, like soccer games I want to watch, like everything goes into my Google Calendar. And including writing blocks, and then I have sort of my workouts and everything, cooking, everything goes in. And then every Sunday, I have metrics that I track that are important to me. How many
Yes.
friends did I hang out with? How many times did I work out?
My
What was my
God.
income this week? Just anything that is important to me that's related to the values, I track. And I look at the week and I ask myself, was this a good week? How do I feel? Do I feel like exhausted now that it's Sunday? Do I feel like energized? And what happens when it happened for me when I started doing this is I started seeing the bad trade-offs I was making with my time. And so I would get lost in Twitter rabbit holes and I wouldn't emerge, and they would, like, all of a sudden that would eat hours, but I wouldn't see them because I just would wake up and do something else. When I started tracking my time, I would see precisely how much I was losing to things that didn't bring me meaning and that weren't serving me. And through time, like whether it's if I have a fitness goal, I try and translate it into time and put it into the calendar. If I'm going to sort of be more active on social media to build up my social media presence, I don't just aspire to do that. I put it into the calendar and create a system around it. I have a system where I like listen to new music every week. So I was realizing I was getting out of tune with like what was popular, and just I wasn't getting inspired by new music. So every day I listen to two new albums that I source through Pitchfork and their best albums of the week.
Every day,
Hmm.
two
Yeah,
albums.
so I do that. That's part of my Sunday routine. I look at Pitchfork's roundup for the best new albums of the week, put them into the calendar, and then when I'm answering emails, I fire them up. I start listening to them, and I've found so many new artists this way, and kind of kept me creatively refreshed, because it's amazing to hear like the new artists who are out there like doing amazing things. It's very inspiring. So everything goes into the calendar, and I realize that particularly for people who don't like this kind of structure, it can feel a little dystopian and nightmarish. But to me, it's allowed me to adjust my dials. And
Yeah.
so, like, oh, I need to be hanging out with friends more. I need to prioritize that. I've been too isolated. If I see a bunch of zeros in a row and I haven't seen any friends for several weeks, I'm like, oh, no wonder I'm feeling like depressed and off. And so through time, I've tweaked my systems and my routines to arrive at a place where I have enough time to create, if I want to, or have unstructured time if I need it. None of this is set in stone. If a friend shows up at my
Okay.
door, I'm not like, "Bye, you're not on the calendar."
Okay.
Like, like, it adjusts. But if I had planned a 3-hour writing block for when that person arrives, I have to move it, right? And something else has to give. And you see precisely the trade-offs that you're making that are standing in the way of things that are more meaningful. So I've found it very, very useful to be very mindful with my time and energy. And because the more time you spend on things that bring you meaning, the more meaning you're going to feel in your life. And writing a novel, as you know, it's a time game first and foremost. You have good writing days, you have bad writing days. You can't write when you're always inspired. You're going to have both days. There are days that feel like you're butting your head against the blank screen. Some days that flow, but you need both days. And it's just, you have to throw time at it. And so the only way to do it is by treating your time as the finite like it is. And to me, the calendar is the path forward.
That is such a good one. Although it's making me think two things. First, do you ever put a block in that is random scrolling? Like, okay, you can just watch a bunch of reels in this 30 minutes.
I do have blank time. I don't literally
Okay.
There's blank time where I'm kind of give myself a break to do whatever I feel like doing at
Oh,
that
good.
time.
I'm glad I asked that question.
It's not literally like now you sleep and now with like lights out and I'm like, head hits the pillow. No, not quite that extreme.
Okay, so it's extreme calendaring for the things that are important to you.
The things that are important with flexibility. You have to build flexibility in the system too.
Yeah, I read am I going to name her name? Yes, I am. Dani Shapiro memoir about writing. And she's had this sentence in it. She was talking about how writers really don't have holidays. They don't have vacations. You write or you don't get paid. And she said, if a friend stops by for lunch, I can't do it. My whole day would be gone. And I was just like, I'm done then. I don't want to be a writer if that's the life, because how do you have meaningful outputs if you don't have those meaningful relationships? I think if I was to talk to her about it, we would have a good conversation, because I'm sure it's not what she meant. But it's
I'm also not gonna like pretend I'm not home when a friend shows up or something like that, right? Like just because I'm writing. But
you move the block.
There are trade-offs though. There are trade-offs that you have to make. I mean, I really like drinking whiskey, but I have to keep that, if I'm going to be a writer and I want to be creative, I have to protect my, my creative time by not drinking the night before, because like I'm getting older and I just can't handle it anymore. So I have to really, really curtail it. And so I think it's more about
Stephen King, Nathan.
I know. I don't know how people like that do it, but like when you're Stephen King, you get to do anything, I guess. But I can't do it anymore. I have to like really, really limit it.
It's a trade-off.
It's tough getting older, but what can you do? But I think that it's sort of putting everything, at least staring at it, just at least staring at how you spent your time that week. At least staring at the screen report you get from Apple once a week. I think it leads to better choices.
Yeah. The other thing your extreme calendaring reminds me of is I talked to my mom and sisters once about how I have all these manifestos. It's like I have a manifesto for who I want to be and how I want to behave on social media, a manifesto for writing, a manifesto for... And my sister Felicity was like, I don't know anyone who spends as much time thinking about how to enjoy your life and have a meaningful life as you do. I think you have me beat, Nathan. Extreme calendaring.
I think I'm even more regimented. But it works for me. It works for me. And like the thing is it's not all powerful. If one day I wake up and I'm like, I'm not doing anything that's on my calendar, I don't do anything that's on my calendar. I mean, I'm not like a robot, but it's just a tool for staring at your trade-offs, I think.
Yeah. And I like how it's both. You plan it and you examine it at the end of the week.
That's the key. That's the key, really. Because the whole point is the examination. It's not to be regimented. That's not the point. The point is to like stare at the choices that you're making.
Against the pillars.
Yes.
Of your life. Yeah. Oh, I love it. That's so good. Thank you. Can't thank you enough. I have loved this conversation. I'm so grateful too. And I'm really excited about this episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I mean, I kind of want to turn around and do the same interview, only you're the one who's talking. So I want to hear more about your choices too. So we'll have to set some time up for that sometime.
I'll set up a coaching call. I still love it. Another one. But thank you very much.
Yep. Good chatting with you.
Night. And enjoy that soccer.
I will. It's been awesome so far. So go USA.
Good.
Yep.
See ya.
All right. See you later.